As a preliminary matter, this is Judy Vetter, Chair of the Finance Committee. Please permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Mark Adler.
I am present and I can hear you.
Thank you. Vikram Chabra.
Present and can hear you.
Thank you. John Sinelnik.
I'm present and I can hear you.
Thank you. Aaron Howard.
Present and accounted for.
Great. Thank you, Aaron. Hannah Kane. Hannah is not with us at this point. Jordan Rubin. Jordan is not with us at this point. Carlos Casillas.
I'm here.
And Judy Vetter, I'm here. So, all right. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Kevin Mizikar.
Present.
Kristen Lass.
Present.
David Snowden. I can see David.
Sorry.
All right, great. Good evening to you all. This open meeting of the Finance Committee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of the public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with the agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Access does not ensure public participation unless participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. For this meeting, the Finance Committee is convening by Google Meet, as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. Please be aware that people may be able to see you. Take care not to screen share unless asked by the chairperson or the staff person. Anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Permit me to share the ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I, Judy Vetter, will introduce each board member or staff member who has the lead role for this particular item or guest speaker associated with this item on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members first and then to staff members, inviting each by name to provide any comment or questions. When appropriate, I will then call upon the members to offer a motion and then for a second. Each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call. Please hold until your name is called. Please mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Remember that unless a document is being shared, your camera feed is triggered by you speaking or background noise. Please speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. If members wish to engage in colloquially with other members, please do so through the chair. Taking care to identify yourself. So at this time, I'm going to call to order the August 6, 2020 Finance Committee meeting. First item on the agenda is acceptance of the July 22nd meeting minutes. Aaron?
I noticed a couple of little typos on page 4. Let's see, page 4 on, it was page 4, no, item D. Now I'm trying to find it again. It was.
What was it related to? I've got it up on my other screen here. Maybe I can find it for you.
It said there was something where it said Ms. Kane, under D, funding for outside entities. Ms. Kane stated that she not anticipate getting any money. And I think that's supposed to be she does not. And then and Ely appreciates, so it should be really. But she does, I think that's supposed to be she does not anticipate getting any money for SYFS.
Oh, yeah.
Just happened to notice that.
Okay, any Anything else, Erin, that you noticed? Okay, anybody else have any comments? Carlos?
I noticed for um, the July 23rd meeting that some of the items.
Carlos, can you hold? We're gonna, let's do the July 22nd meeting minutes first, and then we'll move on to the 23rd. Any other comments or corrections on the 22nd? Okay, seeing none, can I get a motion to accept the meeting minutes of July 22nd, 2020 as amended?
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, we're now going to do a vote by roll call. Mark Adler,
Aye.
Vikram Chabra,
Aye.
Johnson Elnick,
Aye.
Aaron Howard,
Aye.
Carlos Garcia,
Aye.
Judy Vetter. Aye. So the meeting minutes of July 22nd have been accepted. Now we will move on to the July 23rd, 2020 meeting minutes. Carlos?
Yeah, I noticed, I think it's just two of them, but there were some motions that were made and I only see initials for them. I don't see, like for Article 35, for example, it says MA moves to recommend, and then VC, I'm assuming seconded it. I know that those are initials, but the roll call underneath it doesn't exactly show how we voted. And also for the final motion to adjourn. I think those are the only two that I noticed.
Ms. Vetter, this is Kristen Lass. I will certainly make those changes. I also wanted to note, Mr. Garcia noted that I had him recused in several of those. It was a copy and paste error on my part. Those changes have already been made in the document.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so those have been made? Okay, thank you. All right.
Judy, basically, in terms of approving them, page 7 has the move in the vote. Well, I guess their initials on 35, but 37 has the people's names. On page 7,
Page 7.
but right down the middle, halfway down.
I think that's true of Article 37, but I believe that
35 doesn't have
35.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
so Kristen will make those changes. And is there any other questions or comments? All right, well, can I get a motion to accept the July 23rd, 2020 meeting minutes
So
as
moved.
amended?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Great, thank you. All right, it's been moved and seconded, so we're going to take a vote to see if we'll accept the meeting minutes. Mark Adler,
Aye.
Vikram Chabra,
Aye.
Johnson Elnick,
Aye.
Aaron Howard,
Aye.
Carlos Garcia,
Aye.
Judy Vetter. Aye. So the July 23rd, 2020 meeting minutes have been accepted. That will move us on to the next agenda item, which is a review of the revised financial plan fiscal year 2021. Mr. Mizikar?
Thank you. And first and foremost, I have to thank the committee for being so flexible and able to come back. Certainly never in my career have we ever had the opportunity to add $1.2 million into the budget a week before town meeting, but so goes it this year. So we're happy to be able to do that. I'm going to share my screen and walk the committee through the changes, which I think are rather simple. Apologize for not providing you departmental level detail in advance of the meeting. We've been busy readjusting town meeting documents and trying to make sure everything's squared away for Saturday's meeting. So I will certainly answer any questions, and we can go into whatever level of detail you'd like this evening. We have backup documents. We'd be happy to share with you. So So fiscal year 21 budget revisions. I'm talking this evening about the revisions that were made in comparison to the documents that were previously considered and supported through the Finance Committee. You'll recall that we had modeled our financial or our revenues on previous recessionary downturns, and that led us to estimate state aid for that package to be roughly 6% lower than the previous budget, which was fiscal year 20. On Thursday, a week ago, we received word from Representative Kane that there was an agreement reached between the House, Senate, and the governor to level fund state aid at the FY20 level. And since we were conservative in our approach, that enabled us to realize $1,230,566 in additional revenue. We have been working closely, myself, Dr. Sawyer, and Mr. Collins, 2 members of the Board of Selectmen and 2 members of the school committee, in case a scenario like this occurred. We certainly didn't anticipate it any time before the annual town meeting, but I'm glad we seem to be really intelligent in scheduling the meeting for August 8th, right after this happened. So we had a predetermined model that was essentially the first $600,000 that came in from any revenue source that could be applied to general operations would go to the school. And then every dollar thereafter would be split between the town and the school. So that enabled us to move really quickly over the past week and make adjustments to the budget. And I don't have full details on the school side on how the funds will be allocated. I will remind you, prior to these funds coming to fruition, they had about a $2 million deficit that Dr. Sawyer had mentioned to you at your hearing last week. So using that predetermined formula, the school has been able to restore $915,283, leaving about a $1.1 million gap, including COVID-19 expenses for the balance of the school year. And they're actively working through a number of channels, including bargaining with the teachers union to try to come up with that difference. That gap represents not only additional expenses, but also anticipated revenue reductions that are unique to the school budget, things like circuit breaker, transport busing fees, kindergarten fees, and things like that that will be less, many due to COVID-19. And on the town side, we were able to restore $315,283. That allowed us to claw our way back up from about the $950,000 that we were in the hole in comparison to what was presented to the committee in March. Evening on the school side was very similar to what I understand, or excuse me, on the town side, very similar to what the school side was. Is first and foremost, we restored personnel costs that were removed from the budget that reduced funding for many positions across a number of departments. That was our first approach, and really our primary approach, and utilize the bulk of that funding. If you recall, there were almost 6 full-time positions that were eliminated in our previous plan. And then we are proposing funding for one, I think, efficiency study and improvement plan within the highway department. And we've reserved some funds that I'll talk about in just a second. So I'll advance forward. So if we look at the revenue side, just being transparent with everyone's, what everyone's used to looking at within the fiscal projection, this is the top side of the balance sheet. You can see that this spreadsheet illustrates in the right-hand column the difference between fiscal projection 2 and what I'm calling fiscal projection 2.5. The only change made to the revenue side is the $1.230. Moving over to the charges side, you can see the vast majority of those charges have been put to the operating budget, which is what is within the municipal and education expenses, and that increased $1,175,566. The balance of those funds, $55,000, I'm holding in reserve and are requesting that we do not appropriate. And the main reason for that is because there's two sides to the cherry sheet, and the cherry sheet is what state aid used to come on historically. So it's, you know, what we see state aid on and is the name for that document. And the front side of it is the revenue side, and the back side of it is the charge side. So we got the good news on the revenue side last week, but we do not know what the charges are going to be this coming year. So we hope that the state will be kind to us, and we hope that our approach is conservative enough. But I want to hold those funds in reserve for appropriation in the fall. So we've held those out. You'll see at the bottom, the total charges are changing dollar for dollar, consistent with the increase in revenues, $1,235,066. I'll take a couple minutes now and just walk you through the departments that are changing based upon our previous approach through fiscal projection 2. You can see again in the right-hand column compares fiscal projection 2.5, which is in the middle column, to fiscal projection 2. So we are restoring funding within the town manager's department that would provide funding basically for 10 months out of the year for the management analyst position that had previously been cut. So that restores several months of funding for that position. We increased funding for the part-time benefits coordinator position within the treasurer collector's office. We restore funding within elections and registrations, sorry, I didn't mean to change, which I'm very happy that we're able to do, because the amount of workload that the town clerk and election registration is going through with regards to mail-in voting is quite substantial. They've received thousands of ballot requests, mail-in ballot requests for both the primary and the main state and federal elections this fall, so they're quite busy. So having that funding will be critical. Public buildings, we're restoring funding part year for a position that was eliminated. We originally eliminated an HVAC tech position. We don't plan to fund that, but back in the first round of the budget, we had eliminated a part-time custodian position for the Sherwood School. So those funds would allow us to add custodial staff to that very large building at a time where we need a lot of cleaning and a lot of extra services. That position would be a long-term position. It would bring it on the equivalent FTE level to what's in Oak Middle School. Those two buildings are nearly identical in square footage, but Sherwood only had one position and Oak has had two historically. Within the police department, we're restoring funding for an administrative clerk's position and 1.5 full-time patrol officers positions. Within the fire department, we're restoring personnel expenses related mainly to extra duty, which was cut, which made me very nervous, because we certainly many times are unable to control the call volume and things that the fire department is required to draw upon throughout the course of the year for overtime for major incidents and other unforeseen events, and this allows us to restore funding in that area. Turning to the balance of the budget, within the highway department, as I previously mentioned, this is the only change that's not related to any personnel lines. We're proposing the use of $35,000 to provide a GIS-based analysis of our plow routes for both streets and sidewalks. We've never undertaken an efficiency study for plow routes or for streets or sidewalks. And we basically used a decades-old historical model for our approach to managing that. I look forward to the opportunity to see if such a study will provide efficiency on two fronts, perhaps a cost efficiency where we actually are able to utilize less contracted staff and provide the same service in the same time, or at minimum be able to get through the town in a shorter duration. Our current plow routes take about 4 hours, I believe, to get through. And if we can provide any efficiencies where we're able to reduce, half hour, 45 minutes from a plow route, we'll be able to increase our service levels for residents and keep the streets safer. So that's a clear efficiency study. It's a one-time expense. It's located within a 9 account within that department. And the idea would be to reallocate those funds into some of those other positions that we're still not funding on a full year basis. One of the challenges whenever you cut part year funding from a full-time position is when you get back to the next July 1st, you have to significantly increase that line item in order to keep your services level and fund that position for an entire fiscal year. So this helps us eliminate some of that cliff, along with the restoration of those other hours that I previously talked about. Same goes for the library. We're restoring hours, and we made an incremental adjustment to the library's material budget. The Finance Committee is probably aware, but I'll just remind you that the materials budget for the library is, in order to maintain our state certification, is a percentage based on the overall appropriation for the library. And so therefore, when we increase the staffing levels, we added a couple $1,000s to keep ourselves closer to certification. There's certainly a high possibility that certification requirements would be waived for fiscal year 21, but the bigger the hole gets over a number of years, the harder it is to get back to certification level. So we intend to do our best to stay there. And then you can see the $915,000 about, and Dr. Sawyer is those funds for educational purposes. So finally, touch quickly on the operating support. This is an area of the budget that supports both town and school functions in many areas. We had reduced the information technology budget by $10,131, which did have an impact on personnel levels within that. As you know, we transfer those funds to Selco, and those employees' payroll is paid through Selco, so we're restoring those funds to the benefit of the town departments and the services that they provide internally. So again, that takes us back to the $1,175,566 that we're proposing to settle into the operating budget. And the balance, the $55,000, will be held in reserve until we get back to a fall town meeting. So that's my concluding comments. I will keep my screen shared in case we want to refer back to any slides that I have up or any other documents that I may be able to share from my computer, and happy to turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mizikar. I just thank you for that presentation, but I do have to ask if you could go back to the previous slide.
Yes.
I'm just curious about the $1, $5, $1 entries. Is that just a typo, or I'm assuming
No,
it adds up. So
it does.
Okay.
Yeah. So those are, we used formulas whenever we were adjusting the budget before. So many line items through the many iterations of the budget were reduced 2.5 or 3.5 or so many percent. And I did take some liberties and rounding some numbers off as I made my way through the budget. So you do see those. I realize Commission on Disability shows up as $1. It was more incremental, but we ultimately round up to the next highest dollar, which is why it looks a little funny. But those are actual changes.
Okay. All right. So now,
if I could
please.
just say, I know this is likely Mr. Sigelnik's last meeting, and if I didn't show those dollars, where the pennies added up to, there's no doubt he would have found those. So.
Yeah, I took a presumptive strike. I knew John would ask. So, all right. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down through and ask for comment. Mark Adler.
None.
Okay. Vikram Chabra. Comment.
comment.
Question? Okay. John Sinelnik.
No comments.
Wow. Okay. Aaron Howard.
No.
All right. Carlos Garcia.
I have none.
All right. And I've already asked my question. So, Kristen, anything further that you'd like to add?
No comments. Thank you.
David Snowden. And Mr. Mizikar, any further thoughts?
No, all set on that. I have included within your packet this evening what will be the revised motion. So the body of the motion itself has been updated to account for these dollars. And the full budget document, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the town meeting votes on, this new motion and those 17 pages of the book are being reproduced and will be handed out at town meeting. So we would look for the committee's consideration of that verbiage in the motion. If you want to retain your recommendation of it, I don't think you need to take any action technically, but probably be good just to vote on it again since the numbers were updated
Okay,
as far as a recommendation standpoint.
okay. So can I get a motion to maintain our mark? Mr. Adler?
I move that we maintain our recommendation that Article 2 be passed by town meeting.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Then we'll do a roll call vote in favor of the motion. Mark Adler?
Aye.
Vikram Chhabra?
Aye.
John Sinelnik?
Aye.
Aaron Howard?
Aye.
Carlos Garcia?
Aye.
Judy Vetter? Aye. Great. So we will maintain our motion to recommend Article 2. And it is extremely good news to receive additional funding. So, all right, this now takes us on to agenda item number 4, which is deliberation of some of the articles. So I believe Article 37 is one that you want to discuss with us. Is that going to be Mr. Mizikar?
Yeah, well, I will just, I mean, Ms. Loss will take the lead on discussing it with you, and we just want to provide some updated information that we had and taking this opportunity since we're back here with you this evening to share all those details with you.
Thank you, Mr. Mizikar and Chairperson Vetter. I had prefaced the Finance Committee yesterday with an email, and a similar email went to the Board of Selectmen Monday afternoon or Tuesday morning before their meeting on Tuesday evening, that we have received some additional information related to Article 37. So as you may recall, in the public hearing process, we presented that Article 37 is the adoption of a Mass General law that would require sprinklers to be located in boarding houses within a period of 5 years. Mrs. Kane had a series of questions, and we did some additional research over the past 2 weeks regarding those questions. The building inspector and the fire chief reached out to the state fire marshal's office to get some additional clarification. What we did learn is not only does this law, if adopted, pertain to boarding houses or lodging houses with 6 or more unrelated persons, it also relates to short-term rentals, which could frequently be called Airbnbs or HomeAway or VRBO or even a Craigslist listing with 6 or more unrelated persons. Therefore, myself, Mr. Mizikar, Ms. Sheehan, and Chief Vona have discussed this further. And because the town of Shrewsbury does not have a registration process related to the so-called short-term rentals, we are not comfortable at this time recommending this article at town meeting. We feel that there's too much fluidity. We feel that because we don't have a record of so-called Airbnbs, with the exception of those that are actually registered at the state level with the tax implications, that we would like some additional time to do research on this, put some processes in place related to short-term rentals, and perhaps come back at a future town meeting related to this article.
Thank you. So now I'll go down and ask for questions or comments. Mr. Adler?
Yes, I have a question. I agree this needs to be pulled back a bit. I hope that after some time, Kristen, either you or the fire marshal or whomever's research can put a cohesive package together. I'm curious to hear what all the other municipalities have done with this in all this time. When we were considering it so long ago, what was that, last week or something, I thought it would include Airbnbs, and it concerned me, but honestly, my own negligence, I let it slide at the time. and I'm sorry for that. It doesn't mean I don't think Airbnbs should be kept out of this, but we should not be creating a rule that can't be enforced that causes no end of trouble. And so I'm very glad that you caught this, and that we're going to, hopefully at some point clean this up and come back with something, because this protects the residents of those homes, and we don't want anything unfortunate to happen, because right now Airbnbs are skirting the hotel rules by being small, by being temporary, by being private, but that doesn't mean that they're not any less prone to accidents. And we want to make sure that people who are staying there are safe. So, once we've had a discussion, I will certainly make some sort of motion to reconsider our recommendation.
So I can answer your question if available through the chair.
Thank you, please.
So according to the State Fire Marshal's office, there have been 135 municipalities that have adopted this provision. There's 351 municipalities within the Commonwealth. In my research and speaking with some of the municipalities, some have adopted as late as 1988. Again, I have to research when the general law went into effect. Some as recently as this past June. So there's a myriad, but only about a third or a little less than the municipalities in the Commonwealth have adopted this provision. And it's still not known how they are enforcing it related to short-term rentals. That's something that we're trying to currently research.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vikram, did you have a question or a comment?
Just wanted to add on to Mark. I really agree with this decision. It's the right direction to go. I just had two questions. One's academic. Do we have any data as far as short-term rentals in the town? Does it go through some process that we have visibility to, or is that something that your research going forward would inculcate? So I combined both of my questions into one question. So.
If I may, through the chair.
Yes, please, of course.
So the town of Shrewsbury has information from the state related to those short-term rental properties that have actually registered with the state, who pay the additional short-term rental tax, which is the similar tax to the hotel motel tax. However, the town of Shrewsbury does not have a local registration or licensing process, and we don't necessarily address this specifically within the zoning bylaw. This is something that the manager's office, the building inspector's office, and the planning department have been grappling with over the past year and a half, if not more, and it's certainly on our priority list to look into. So at this time, to be concise, we do not have a local process related to licensing or permitting short-term rentals.
Thank you. Vikram, any further questions or comments?
No, thank you. Thank you, Kristen.
All right.
Thank you, Judy.
Okay. John Sinelnik, any questions, comments?
Yeah, I guess a clarification for myself. At the beginning, you talked in terms of this only applies, this sprinkler rule applies to 6 or more people in the facility. So if I rented my extra bedroom for 1 or 2 people, I would not come under this. But if I rented my entire house out, I guess I would fall under that. Is that a fair question?
So the way that we have understood it from the fire marshal's office over the past few days, and I might have misspoken at pre-town meeting, but I'm very clear on this today, is that it's related to 6 or more unrelated people. So if you were to go on vacation with your wife and 4 children, your 6 related people, that would not apply for the sprinkler rule. If you were to go on vacation with 6 or 7 other gentlemen who are not in your family, the sprinkler item would apply. And that's where we're struggling with how to enforce this.
Thank you. That makes sense. Okay. That's it. No more.
Thank you, John. Aaron Howard?
Yes, I last year I had been doing some research on short-term rentals due to a question that somebody had asked me. And I had looked at some of the regulations that some other towns in Massachusetts have. And I seem to remember, I could probably go back and find it, that there were some towns that had differentiated between on the requirements for short-term rentals based on how often they were rented, because there's kind of two categories. There are some people are buying houses to be just to use as a short-term rental, and then there are other people who, maybe they're going out of town for a week or a month and they're renting their house out, or they're renting a room out, as John had just mentioned. So I just wanted to mention that as, maybe down the road, if it is decided to apply these kind of regulations to there, that maybe it could, there's a way to differentiate, if the house is rented out for more than 25% of the year, or whatever the criteria are. Just throwing that out there.
If I may, through the chair.
Yes, please.
So it is very clear from the fire marshal's office, it's not the amount of time that the unit is rented out. It's strictly related to the unrelated persons being 6 or greater.
Thank you. Carlos Garcia?
Yes, just one, and I think you may have touched on it, but if there is a state inventory on Airbnbs, does the state provide us that information, or is that something we have to seek out, or how does that work?
If I may, through the chair.
Please.
Yes, the town of Shrewsbury is afforded that inventory. However, there are several units or property owners who choose not to register through the state, so our information may not be 100% correct.
And a follow-up, if I may?
Certainly, yes.
Thank you. And how often do they report that information to us? Is it annually, or is it as soon as one is registered?
It's a quarterly basis.
Quarterly.
And I have requested it from the state for this quarter. I have not received the information yet. But the last time I received a report, I think it was under 10 units in the town of Shrewsbury were registered.
Thank you.
I guess the question that I have is, and you may have touched on this, but obviously the town gets revenue from hotels. Now, if we were to have a registration process for boarding houses and Airbnb, would they be required to pay revenue to the town, tax revenue to the town?
So short-term rentals under the state law are required to register with the state and pay those revenues to the town. If we were to have a local license or registration process, the town could also adopt an additional fee if desired.
So a follow-up then, a boarding house may not be a short-term rental, so therefore they don't have to pay tax.
That is correct.
But if we were going to put a registration process in place, there may be some additional registration fees that we would put in place.
That could be an option.
So, but at the same time that I say that out loud, I mean, I guess a long-term boarding house, how does that differ from an apartment building? And they don't pay, I'm assuming they don't pay any tax revenue to us. Is that correct?
They pay property taxes, but that's it.
Right.
They don't pay the hotel motel tax is based upon a duration of a stay. And I don't have the regulations in front of me, but it's generally, I believe it's 1 night up to 29 or 30 nights. If someone's staying longer than 30 nights, then they're not required to pay that local excise tax.
So it sounds like a registration process for the boarding houses and then safety requirements for the sprinkler. But then it also sounds like, in fairness to the hotels, where Airbnb is more like a hotel, moving towards making sure that they are registered so that we're capturing that tax revenue. Is that kind of what you guys are thinking?
Honestly, we have a lot of different ideas on the table and haven't fleshed out much, so I really don't want to speak too much to it this evening.
Okay, fair enough. But I guess voicing my opinion is that I think in fairness to the hotels and also for, financial gain of the town, I think it's only fair that we think about making sure that the Airbnb are actually paying that tax. So with that, John, did you have another question or comment?
No, I'm all set.
Okay, thank you. Then can I get a motion to reconsider the vote on Article 37? Mr. Adler?
Judy, I don't think it can be a motion to reconsider because
Okay.
the last session we adjourned and motions to reconsider can only be handled in single
Okay, fair enough.
session. But I will move that, notwithstanding our previous motion, that I move that we recommend defeat of Article 37.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded to defeat Article 37. I'm now going to take a roll call vote. Mark Adler?
Aye.
Vikram Chabra?
Aye.
John Sinelnik?
Aye.
Aaron Howard?
Aye.
Carlos Garcia?
Aye.
Judy Vetter? Aye. Thank you. Were there any other articles that we wanted to discuss this evening? Okay, seeing none, then we'll now move on to reviewing the meeting schedule, which is Saturday, obviously town meeting, Saturday, August 8th. We're going to start our meeting at 8:15 a.m. under the tent. Is there anything else that you'd like to add, Mr. Mizikar?
No, I don't foresee any other business of the committee, but we will gather to ensure that we update you if there is anything.
There's a 30% chance of thunderstorms Saturday. So
Isn't there one article that we held?
we were going to, but I think it was actually, we just glossed over it and recommended it regardless.
Okay,
It's one
all
of
right.
those zoning articles, but
Okay, so we didn't have anything held. All right, I thought there was one.
Right.
Okay, all right,
we
great.
were
Thank
going
you.
to, but we didn't.
That's probably what I remember then. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so at this point, we're going to move to our agenda item number 6, correspondence. Email from Representative Hannah Kane regarding the fiscal 20 supplemental budget. And also an email from Representative Kane regarding 3-month interim budget approved by the legislator, and then email from Representative Kane regarding the state commitment to hold fiscal year 21 local and school aid amounts at fiscal year 20 level. So at this point, unless there's any other comments or questions from the committee, I'm seeing none. I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Move to adjourn.
May I get a second?
Second.
All right, the motion has been made and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All in favor? And I'm going to go down through the roll call. Mark Adler,
Aye.
Vikram Chabra,
Aye.
John Sinelnik,
Aye.
Aaron Howard,
Aye.
Carlos Garcia,
Aye.
Judy Vetter. Aye. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.